Before Jose Rizal became a martyr, before he became a symbol of sacrifice and nationalism, he was first a man who knew how to be happy. And in 1888, for 45 short days, Rizal found happiness in an unexpected place, Japan. Good day, everyone. This is Nika Alinares. Today, I will be reporting Chapter 12 of the Life and Works of Rizal, entitled Romantic Interlude in Japan. This chapter narrates Rizal's stay in Japan from February 28 to April 13, 1888, a period he himself described as one of the happiest interludes of his life. This was not just a travel story. This was a chapter about culture, love, sacrifice, and the painful choice between personal happiness and national duty. Rizal arrived in Yokohama, Japan, early in the morning of February 28, 1888. From there, he proceeded to Tokyo, where he stayed at the Tokyo Hotel for March 2 to March 7. In a letter to Ferdinand Blumentritt, Rizal described Tokyo as a modern, expensive, and comparable to Paris, noting its wide streets and massive stone walls. This observation is important because Japan, at that time, was rapidly modernizing under the Meiji Restoration, something Rizal deeply admired. Shortly after his arrival, Rizal was visited by Juan Perez Caballero, Secretary of the Spanish Legation. He was invited to live at the legation, and Rizal accepted the offer, not because he trusted the Spaniards, but because he knew he was already being watched. Rizal accepted the invitation for two reasons: to save money and to prove that he had nothing to hide. On March 7, 1888, he officially moved into the Spanish legation in the Azabu district of Tokyo. Despite his intelligence and confidence, Rizal faced a problem almost immediately: language. He looked Japanese, but he could not speak Japanese. People stared at him, children laughed at him, shopping became embarrassing. Instead of being offended, Rizal did what he always did. He learned. Within days, he began studying the Japanese language seriously. He also immersed himself in kabuki drama, traditional music, art, and judo, the Japanese art of self-defense. Rizal did not live like a tourist. He lived like a student of culture. He traveled to places such as Meguro, Nekko, Hakone, and Miyanoshita, visiting shrines, museums, libraries, villages, and scenic landscapes. Rizal admired Japan deeply. He praised the cleanliness and discipline of the people, their politeness and industry, the low crime rate, the absence of beggars in the streets. However, one thing disturbed him: rickshaws pulled by men. To Rizal, this was inhuman. He believed no human being should be treated like an animal of burden. This reaction shows Rizal's deep concern for human dignity, regardless of nationality. One afternoon in March 1888, Rizal was strolling near a park when he heard something unexpected: Western classical music by Strauss being played beautifully. He stopped and listened in amazement. How could Japanese musicians perform European music with such mastery? When the band finished, Rizal approached them, and to his shock, they spoke Tagalog. They were Filipinos. Far from home, Rizal encountered his fellow countrymen. This moment reminded him that Filipino identity travels, and that even abroad, Filipinos carried talent, skill, and pride. A few days after moving into the Spanish legation, Rizal noticed a beautiful Japanese woman passing by the gate during her afternoon walks. Her name was Sieko Osui, whom Rizal affectionately called Osiasan. With the help of a gardener, Rizal was introduced to her. Despite Rizal's limited Japanese, communication was easy because Osiasan spoke English and French. From that first meeting, they began seeing each other almost daily. They visited the Imperial Art Gallery, the Imperial Library, universities, botanical gardens, parks like Hibiya Park, temples, and shrines. But Osesan was more than a companion. She became Rizal's guide, interpreter, and teacher, helping him understand Japanese culture, history, and language. Their connection grew into a sincere affection that brought joy and comfort to Rizal, who had previously endured heartbreak and loneliness. Osesan's charm, intelligence, modesty, and willingness to teach him made her extremely dear to Rizal. Their shared experiences in Tokyo became among the most cherished days of his travels. Rizal was offered a comfortable life in Japan, a job, love, peace. But Rizal knew this happiness had a price. If he stayed, the Philippines would lose him. So on April 13, 1888, Rizal boarded the English steamer Belgic, bound for the United States. He left Japan with a heavy heart, knowing he would probably never return. The night before leaving, Rizal wrote a deeply emotional diary entry saying farewell to Osesan, a farewell filled with love, pain, and resignation. Japan has enchanted me. The beautiful scenery, the flowers, the trees, and the inhabitants. So peaceful, so courteous, and so pleasant. Osesan, sayonara, sayonara. I have spent a happy golden month. I do not know if I can have another one like that in all my life. Love, money, friendship, appreciation, honors, these have not been wanting. To think that I am living this life for the uncertain, the unknown. There, I was offered an easy way to live, beloved and esteemed. To you, I dedicate the final chapter of this memoirs of my youth. No woman like you has ever loved me. No woman like you has ever sacrificed for me. Like the flower of the chudchi that falls from the stem fresh and whole without falling leaves or without withering. With poetry still despite its fall, thus you fell. Neither have you lost your purity, nor have the delicate petals of your innocence faded. Sayonara, sayonara. You shall never return to know that I have once more thought of you, and that your image lives in my memory. And undoubtedly, I am always thinking of you. Your name lives in the sight of my lips. Your image accompanies and animates all my thoughts. When shall I return to pass another divine afternoon like that in the temple of Maguru? When shall the sweet hours I spent with you return? When shall I find them sweeter, more tranquil, more pleasing? You, the color of the camellia, its freshness, its elegance. Ah, last descendant of a noble family, faithful to an unfortunate vengeance, you are lovely like... Everything has ended. Sayonara, sayonara. During the long voyage, Rizal befriended a Japanese journalist and novelist named Techo Suihiro, who, like Rizal, was critical of injustice and tyranny. Rizal served as Techo's interpreter because of his language skills, and their friendship continued through parts of the journey to San Francisco and later to London. Techo admired Rizal greatly, and his friendship influenced his later novels, which resembled Nole Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo. Rizal might not have left a promise that he will return to Japan to be with Osesan, which was probably the reason that Seiko got married to another man. After Rizal's departure, Osea-san became the wife of Englishman Alfred Charlton, who was an English teacher in the Pierce High School, then the Yamaguchi High School, and later taught chemistry in the prestigious Gakushin High School. He was decorated with the Japanese Order of Merit, 5th class, as indicated on his tombstone. Charlton and Seiko had a daughter named Yuriko, who married the son of a senator named Yoshiharu Takiguchi. They had a son who was a Japanese diplomat assigned in Geneva. Charlton died in 1925 while Seiko survived World War II. Seiko died on May 1, 1947 in Hagi City in Yamaguchi Prefecture in western Japan, where she relocated during the war from Tokyo to avoid the bombing. She died at age 80.